What's up, QAA listeners?
The fun games have begun.
I found a way to connect to the internet. I'm sorry, boy. Welcome, listener, to Premium Chapter 193 of the QAnon Anonymous podcast, the Marjorie Taylien 3 episode. As always, we are your hosts, Jake Rokotansky,
Liv Agar,
Julian Field,
and Travis View.
So today, Liv has been brought on the podcast to make restitutions for hurting her ankle and not making it to the Toronto date, and any other crimes she has or hasn't committed in or outside of our minds. It doesn't matter. But today is payback time, and she will be reprising her role as Marjorie
Taylor
Greene.
Mm-hmm.
like you guys did that together.
The rising star of the Republican Party.
People are saying that no one's changed more for a role than this one. Liv has been
I've
doing
been training all year,
intense.
only to be sabotaged by my ankle.
Liv has been...
Liv wasn't actually in the middle of like a high-level Krav Maga match that she had to cover up with a small dog running at her ankle.
I was
sorry.
I was gonna say she's been Meisnering back and forth with her small dog. Just like really getting to the heart of some of these lines. It's really one of my best, I think.
Actually,
and by that, I mean one of my worst.
I think the official story is that she became so much like Marjorie Taylor Greene during these practice sessions with her small dog that the dog eventually grew convinced that she was and dutifully attacked.
I have a good guard dog,
That's...
He was trained to attack Marjorie Taylor Greene specifically if she comes and tries to break into my house.
Now, let's be clear. If Marjorie showed up to your house, she would probably American football style kick that dog into the next dimension. But
Absolutely. But the problem is that I don't have all the CrossFit skills that Marjorie Taylor Greene does.
Yeah, it would be Krav Maga versus CrossFit, which is like one of those weird YouTube channels where they put two bugs in a jar and make them, fight
it's
to
like
the death.
the Ultimate Warrior.
But today we're going to be doing the third chapter of Jake's Alien trilogy.
And retiring the Alien trilogy for good. This was a tough one.
He looks so happy, mostly because he accidentally put too much hash in his cigarette.
Yeah.
But also because he's finally going to be rid of that.
Corey, cut that out. I found out my mom's been listening to the premium, so she's been gaining insight on my smoking and my hash enjoying ways.
Corey, leave it in.
No, Corey, please take it out.
Corey, you know that Jake, you barely talk to him at all. Like, you know that we have the relationship. You know that you guys. I mean, hopefully you can figure out a back channel, Jake, because otherwise these edits are going to be mine forever.
Well. No, it's a good story. It feels good to retire it here.
Yeah. Take it out back, shoot it in the head.
It was a tough. I really wasn't thinking ahead when I told Julian when we were starting to try to figure out what we were going to do for the tour. I was like, I've got it. I was like, I'll do a trilogy. It'll be a different story every leg of the tour. And the first trilogy that came into my head was Aliens, of course.
Right.
And it also was a little bit on topic with the reptilian sort of thing. Sure. It blended just enough to seem like a great idea. And by the time I was trying to figure out how to parody the power loader and the prison planet, I mean, things really started to fall apart. So
anyone who has to do that third movie would just go straight to having Jeffrey Epstein be an active character in the story. It obviously, that's just like storyteller's delight.
It was a huge hit, when Jeffrey Epstein makes an appearance, the audiences would go absolutely bananas.
Yeah, they love that guy.
What was really funny as in Chicago, a handful of my parents' friends, in their mid to late 60s, some maybe early 70s, had to hear their friend's son do a show, and he mentions Jeffrey Epstein's name, and the crowd goes wild. It's
Well, those are the types of people listening, certainly this far into the episode. We're also going to be doing another segment that I wrote for a good portion of the tour about Mel's Hole.
Yes, this is a Pacific Northwest darling of a story. And one of the infamous sort of Art Bell arcs on his radio program.
Yeah, it also was the inspiration for a TV show called Outer Range that has a season, a pretty good season actually, I'd say, under its belt. So it has like continued to influence things, and people love this. It's a funny story and meta story of Art Bell doing his radio show and doing the kinds of things he does. So that'll be our first part, and then we can settle in. Jake is looking at me with. I can't tell. It's like a funny, it's like he's amused, but there's also an undertone of murder in his hash shaded eyes. Leave it in, Corey.
Mel's Hole.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about Mel's Hole, and it's not the Mel Gibson hole. So Jake, you can reholster your rimming lips.
Well, hold on, I didn't say anything.
Well, I'm just saying that like if it was about Mel Gibson, you'd be puckering up.
I don't know. I think I'd be hunkering down.
So this is a storyteller known as Mel Waters who claimed to have a very, very deep hole in the ground on his property. So deep, in fact, that it may have been bottomless. But Mel didn't just make claims about his hole to a couple of buddies after some beers. No, he sent a fax to Art Bell, the host of the legendary paranormal radio show Coast to Coast AM. So here's Bell reading the message he received all the way back in 1997.
Dear Art, I'm writing to you to see if I can get some help from you or your vast listening audience. I live in rural eastern Washington near the Manastash Ridge. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly now. On our property, there is a hole. Like the previous owners and the owners before them, we've been throwing our trash into the hole. Apparently, the hole has been there as long as anyone can remember. At first, I thought it was an ancient well. Anyway, the hole is 9 feet, 9 inches in diameter. There is a stone retaining wall around it, and we put a steel door on top to keep anyone from falling into it. As I said earlier, people have been throwing their trash into the well, that's in quotes here, for decades. Furniture, household trash, dead cows, building debris, you name it. The thing is, I noticed the hole never filled up. So I got curious, actually obsessed, began trying to measure the depth of the hole. I emptied 3 fishing reels of about 1,500 yards of monofilament trying to determine the depth. Soon I was buying fishing line in bulk. So far, I've sunk about 80,000 feet of line into the hole without reaching bottom. My wife works at a local university with a geology department. We hope to get some professional scholarly help in determining the depth of the hole, as far as I can tell. There's nothing else particularly strange about it, except for 2 other things. Dogs refuse to get within 100 feet of the hole. Birds won't sit on the retaining wall or metal door. Another strange thing is there's no echo when you yell into the hole. Indeed, I've never heard anything hit bottom when tossed in. We once tossed in an old refrigerator, and we never heard it hit bottom, no crash, splash, or crunch.
You have been listening to a sample of a premium episode of QAnon Anonymous.
We don't run any advertising on the show, and we'd like to keep it that way.
For $5 a month, you'll get access to this episode, a new one each week, and our entire library of premium episodes.
So head on over to patreon.com/QAnon Anonymous and subscribe.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I love you.
Jake loves you.